Whether you're looking for answers to specific life questions or seeking to become the best version of you possible, welcome to the Mental Breakdown and Psych Reg podcast, where we offer insight, information, and strategies based upon research and years of practice as clinical psychologists. So sit back, have a listen, and get connected with our hosts, Dr. Bernie Wilkinson and Dr. Richard Marshall. Welcome back for another episode. We are here today to talk about, I think it's one of your favorite topics.
I was about to say that.
Because you say, I thought you were going to say finally. We're going to talk about...
I was, but if anybody was listening a couple of days ago, they know why I didn't say finally.
That's right.
I wouldn't say finally with this one.
No?
No. I would say thank goodness.
Thank goodness?
Oh.
Well, we're going to talk about it because you do tease me about it often. And but we're going to talk today about multitasking. See the dramatic pause.
The reason I'm paused, I do tease you about it.
You do?
Because you may be one of the few, there are two people. Mm-hmm. I had a student a short time, a year or two ago. I think she could multitask. She seemed to be able to. And you, I think you can multitask. But you're the only two people that I think could really multitask. I think she can. And I think you can. I don't know of anybody else who can. Other people think they do.
Right.
Everyone thinks that he or she can multitask, that they really do multitask, and they don't.
Right.
Okay. So I'm very glad we're talking about this because it's one of the great myths that people think they multitask. And every time I bring it up in class, people they smile, at the doddering old fool because they think they can they're multitasking and that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
In this case, I do.
Right. Yeah, we think that we can, but multitasking places, or attempting to multitask, places demands on several neuropsychological systems.
Right.
Right. And those systems are really inherently designed to only focus on one thing at a time.
That's right.
And so that's where we sort of get into this. Well, I've been trying to think about how we're going to really talk about it because we do multitask. We're doing more than one thing at a time.
That's right. We do several things, but we don't do them simultaneously.
Right.
We put them in the same time span.
Right.
But we don't do them at the same time.
Right.
Biologically, let's start with that. The brain doesn't work that way.
Right.
The brain does one thing at a time.
Right.
It can do that thing very rapidly, but it only does one thing at a time. So what you're actually doing when you multitask is you're doing rapid switching.
Right.
You're switching from task to task very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched you work, and I think you do sort of do one thing while you're thinking about something else. Mm-hmm. I've seen you do this Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
And you can be doing that while you're talking to me about something else.
Right.
That's probably as close to, but you do that academically too.
Right.
I mean, you can, and it's not like I'm listening to music and I'm writing the paper.
Right.
No,
that's different.
You're writing the paper with music in the background.
Right.
That's not that's what you're saying that's not really
correct.
That's not multitasking.
No, that's not multitasking.
All right.
That's creating background noise that you're probably actually using to prevent you from being distracted by other background noises.
That's right. That's what teenagers do. They'll listen to music with headphones while they're doing homework.
Right.
Because that blocks out other distractions.
Right. Yeah. And I remember. I wish she was here because my mom would be able to talk more about it. But we love movies, and you know my mom, so we love movies. We've always gone to movies and things like that. And she would describe, because of my ADHD, I was a pretty active kid, impulsive. I had a hard time really focusing for long periods of time. But she would talk about times when we would go to the movies and. Hopefully they went to times when there weren't a lot of other people there, because she said that I would be going up and down aisles and I would be moving all around and everything. But then on the way home, I would reference and quote things from the movie and talk about what happened in the movie, and it didn't even seem like I was watching it. So I think what happens to some people is that we have the I don't know if it's part of ADHD where you're distracted with one thing, but you're able to, have some facilities that attend to something else at the same time, or if it's just, it very well could be that, I was running around, but there were parts of it that caught my attention, and I focused on it for those brief periods of time, and then I was back to being distracted again. I'm not sure.
Well, the movement is one brain system.
Right.
You're actually probably watching and listening to the movie with a second brain system.
Right.
So that's like listening to music while you're writing something. Those are two different systems.
Right.
So you could do that.
Yeah. So, but when it comes to what we traditionally think of or sort of stereotypically think of as multitasking, it's not something, as you said, that our brain is really equipped to do.
Right.
What we're doing in actuality is we're doing this rapid shift from topic to topic or activity to activity, and we're switching back and forth pretty quickly sometimes. But there is some research to suggest that what happens when we're doing that is we're really only giving partial attention to each thing.
That's right.
Even though we're focusing, quote unquote, focusing on one thing at a particular moment and then something else at the next moment, we're not fully engaged with either thing.
That's right.
And so our performance and our understanding or our learning of some of that stuff is actually diminished because we're not able to apply as much attention and focus to any particular thing.
That's right. And there was a study done I think it was done in London, that showed that when you're doing a cognitive task, if you keep switching back and forth, they said it was IQ. Your IQ actually drops. Your cognitive ability is actually reduced while you're multitasking.
Right.
Because multitasking, when you multitask, you're switching from task to task very quickly. That comes at a cost. In order to switch, that's coming at a cost. And the cost is in reduced efficiency and reduced accuracy.
Right.
Okay. Plus fatigue.
Right.
Because and students will say, well, I can pay attention to what you're saying and surf the internet. I can be doing other things. I can be writing letters while you're talking. You cannot do that.
Right.
You're either listening or you're reading.
Right.
You can't do both at the same time. And you're either listening to text or you're reading text.
Right.
Okay. You can listen to music and read text, but you're not listening to the words of the music.
I was just going to say, but as soon as you start singing with the music,
that's right,
your reading starts going away.
Right.
Because
that's right.
that system overlap doesn't allow you to attend the way that you are thinking you're going to attend.
So if you define multitasking as doing two things at the same time, such as listening to music while you're reading, that's one type of multitasking. But if you think you can do two things at the same time, two cognitive tasks, you can't do that.
Right.
The easiest example is when you're at a party and you're listening to two conversations.
Right.
You're not listening to both at the same time.
Right.
You're switching from one to the other, and you're picking up pieces of both.
Right.
And you think you're listening to both, but you're not. You're listening to portions of each separately.
Right. And I think that what happens is we know those people who seem to be able to do that. So people who seem to be able to listen to two conversations at the same time.
Right.
Probably what's happening in those situations is that the person is actually just either good at filling in the spaces.
That's right. That's what
or
you're doing.
they already know the topic well enough to where they understand enough to where they don't need some
But if
details.
it was a brand new topic, if two people were talking about things that were completely new to you, you wouldn't be able to listen to both of them simultaneously.
Right. It just couldn't happen.
Your brain just can't do that.
Right.
Okay.
So again, the reality is that multitasking the way that we think we can multitask really isn't even possible.
Right.
And there's some consequences to trying to do so. Right. You mentioned the decrease in IQ, and it's not that it makes you less intelligent. It means that the capacity for you to use your ability is diminished.
That's right.
The access that you have to that to those cognitive abilities is decreased.
That's why states are making texting while driving illegal, because while you can drive and you can text,
Right.
it's very difficult to do, but because you're either texting or you're driving.
Right. You can't. Right. Right. Because the
you're switching back and forth.
Right.
Okay. But if you happen to look down when the person in front of you slams on her brakes,
you're not going to see that.
Right.
Right. And that's, and I don't even know that that's in the same family of multitasking, because you're not. I mean, you're not looking at the road.
That's right. You're not tuned in.
If you were, and I don't even know how to sort of put it on the same level as classic multitasking, because you can't look here and here at the same time.
That's right.
I mean, so you can't even say that, you can't even refer to that as multitasking, because you're just not. I mean,
No,
you're not.
No,
there's no way.
You can't do it.
So
you can't look at. Right.
Now you can listen and watch at the same time, and that's how we listen to the radio and podcasts and things like that. But you can't look to the right and look to the left at the same time. So to say, well, I'm good at multitasking, so I can text and drive, or I can do this and drive. That's not multitasking.
And even listening on the phone and driving is more difficult. We have listened to the radio and we drive, and we didn't have any trouble with that because the radio was sort of, we were focused on our driving.
It didn't require any decisions.
That's right. But when you're listening to somebody on your phone, you are listening more intently and you're trying to make decisions, which is what you should be doing when you're driving, is making decisions.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Yeah, and I think that leads us very nicely to this next level that we need to go to, and that is, a lot of the things that we can do simultaneously are passive activities. We can listen and look at the same time. But as soon as that we have to engage in something, whether it's making a decision, whether it's processing information so that we can learn it or so that we can remember it, as soon as we start to apply some form of cognitive function to that, so cognitive processing to it, that's when our ability to multitask, if we continue to refer to it as that, really drops off and almost disappears. Right. I mean, you can't make decisions about two things at the same time.
Right. That's right.
So there's a great video of this. I don't remember who did it now, but it was on one of the Learning Channel types of things, and they had a guy who said he was fantastic at multitasking, and he could do it with no problem at all. And he said, and they said, okay, well, let's do this. Let's get you driving a car, through a closed course with decisions that you have to make. Things are going to be coming out, and at the same time, you're going to be on the phone. And you're going to be solving math problems on the phone. So you're not just talking to somebody on the phone where you can say, hold on just a second. No, you're going to be solving math problems where you have to make a decision about something.
Right.
And this guy who supposedly was really good at multitasking,
do this.
Yeah, he had all kinds of problems, all kinds of issues.
Mm-hmm.
So he couldn't do it. It just wasn't possible.
That's right. Cognitive engagement is one at a time.
Right.
You can't do two things simultaneously.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So you need to make sure that you are cognizant of the fact that if you're doing passive activities, you could probably have a couple things going on at the same time. But as soon as you have to make decisions, as soon as you have some processing that's required,
that's right.
It changes. You have to adjust at that point.
Right. And what you're really, and as we said, what you're really doing is you're switching from one to the other, and that switching causes increased stress.
Right.
It takes increased effort, and the effort causes increased stress. And when you get stressed, you produce cortisol.
Right.
So cortisol also becomes a problem when you were trying to multitask. So if you're studying, if you're doing homework, for example, and you're switching back and forth very quickly, you're going to fatigue more quickly because of the increased stress, which produces cortisol, which is going to make you tired.
Well, and the thing to remember with that too is when we're stressed, our body isn't designed to make good decisions when it's stressed.
That's right. That's
right. The design is get unstressed.
That's right. What do I have to do to end this?
Right.
Right.
And so to end this, we need to stop studying.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to finish learning this.
Right.
So our brain is designed to end a task that's causing stress. So,
exactly. Right.
So if you're trying to, so that's why it's a bad idea to try to multitask when it's something that you really need to learn.
That's right. No, you better focus on that one thing.
Focus on the one thing.
Shut everything else down for a moment, for some period of time, and focus on that one thing. Go back to the other stuff later. But if it's really important, you need to shut everything else down and just focus on that.
Right.
Another way to look at this, meditation.
Yeah.
Okay. Meditation is just the opposite of multitasking, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to clear everything out of your head and just force yourself to focus on this one thing.
Right.
That relaxes your brain. That gives you energy. Yeah. So, and it does just the opposite of what multitasking does, which drains energy and makes you less efficient and less productive. Yeah. So the whole world of meditation is the opposite of multitasking. Another way to look at it is what Csikszentmihalyi calls flow. Right? Yep. You've heard of flow.
Yeah.
When I think of flow, I think of Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Michael Jordan would get into this state in a basketball game that even he couldn't explain. There are videos of him just shrugging his shoulders and saying, "I don't know how this is happening."
Right.
Okay, because he had the ability to focus on one single thing.
Right.
When we talk about athletes, we talk about, you can't lose your concentration. Whether a tennis player, a basketball player, a baseball player, you have to stay focused. Why? Because the brain only does one thing at a time.
Right.
So there are multiple examples from meditation, from flow, from mindfulness, of how the brain really works.
Right.
It doesn't multitask.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you're a parent and your child, some parent asked me this the other day. If your child wants to listen to music and do homework, it's probably okay.
Probably.
Right? Depends on the music.
Right.
We know that classical music is better, usually because it has no words.
No words.
Okay, so you're not trying to listen to the words, you're just listening to the background music.
Right.
But if it's music that they can handle and doesn't have a lot of words and they're not trying to memorize the song while they're doing homework, it's probably harmless.
Right. Right. Yeah. So the measure of that, the metric that you would want to use for that decision is, are they getting their homework done?
That's right.
If they're getting their homework done and it's correct and I'm glad that you said how quickly, because sometimes as parents we focus on how fast he's doing it, and we're like, well, if he wasn't listening to that, he would get it done much faster. If he's not complaining that 30 minutes of homework is taking an hour because he's listening to music, let him listen to music and take an hour instead of fighting him for 30 minutes to do it with the music off.
I had a little boy come in. I got so tickled by this kid. He's 10 years old, fifth grader. And they're concerned because it takes him so long to do his homework. And when I was talking to him, he said, well, I said, does it bother you that you spend 3 or 4 hours? And he said, sometimes, but sometimes it's okay. It didn't bother him.
Yeah.
If it doesn't bother him and he doesn't mind sitting there for 3 or 4 hours, that's perfectly okay.
That's fine.
Let him go.
Yeah.
Some people talk about monotasking.
Right.
That perhaps we should encourage we ourselves, and we should encourage our students and our children to spend some time each day monotasking. Does a couple of things. You take a pause. 34% of Americans say they're completely overwhelmed by all this stuff.
Right.
Okay, so 1 out of 3 of us is completely overwhelmed by all this multitasking and social media and everything that we're trying to do. So the antidote for that, one way to deal with that is to talk about monotasking. Just stay on one thing, at least for some brief period, like you say, homework.
Right.
Just monotask on your homework. Then you can multitask all you want. But when you have something important to do, monotask that one. It gives your brain a break. It lets you do it more. It lets you learn things more efficiently, and it gives you a break from the quantity. Because what we're doing now is we're going for quantity rather than quality. That's what bothers me as I watch young people, is they're learning things very superficially. They're learning a lot, but it's very superficial.
Right.
There's some things you want to learn at depth.
Right.
And so, so the things you want to learn more deeply, perhaps you want to switch to monotasking.
Right. Yeah, and that's what you mentioned. You mentioned meditation a moment ago. That's sort of what meditation is. It's monotasking on focusing on a particular thing or avoiding thinking about other things. And that kind of monotasking is really refreshing. It's really stress reducing, and helps us rejuvenate and kind of have, like you said, have more energy. In the very least, more cognitive energy.
That's right.
For doing other tasks.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So again, the way that we typically think of multitasking just isn't possible the way that we think we can do it. We just can't. It's disappointing that we can't.
Right. Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, if you could imagine. But I know that, when I sit down or when I come to the office and I sit down to focus on one thing and just, if I can just get this report done, I know that I get that report done much faster than if I come in and I got that going on and I got a football match on and I got this going and that going, and then I know that I'm distracted. It takes longer. I may not be upset that it takes me longer, because I'm watching the match and I got all this other stuff going on, but it's not as efficient. And there are times when we really need to. When we really need to be more efficient than we need to be anything else. And so those are the times when, as you said, monotasking, we need to cut all these other things, the distractions out, and focus on the thing that we need to get done.
Right. And the culture that our children in particular, and some adults, are growing up in is this very multitasking culture.
Right.
We acknowledge that. And so one of the things you're going to have to do as a parent is to introduce your children to this notion of monotasking.
Right.
And you're going to have to teach them the value of that and the benefit of monotasking. And that each day maybe there should be a trade-off.
Right.
Let's use this time for monotasking.
Right.
Homework would be a good time to do that. And let's use the rest of this time for multitasking.
Right.
But you may have to teach kids how to do that.
Right.
Because it doesn't come naturally in this very rapid, especially after they get a cell phone.
Right.
Multitasking is going to be their mode.
Right. And another sort of caveat is with things like ADHD. Monotasking is difficult for those of us with ADHD. It's just hard to focus and attend to one thing for any sustained period of time. So even if you choose homework as the monotasking activity for the day, you need to make sure that you break it up a little bit with other activities. So you don't want to expect your child, especially your ADHD child, to be able to monotask for 45 minutes. It's just not going to happen.
Probably going to come in 10-minute segments. I would say that 10 minutes is probably the max.
Right.
That somebody can really monotask and get anything done. After that, they're going to start to drift. It's just, that's biology. That's just how it works.
And so that's when you take a break just for a couple of minutes.
Right. That's
get up, stretch, move around, get a little drink of water, and then get back and do another 10 minutes.
You have to hit the reset button about every 7, 8, 9 minutes. Take a break, reset, and get back to it.
Yeah.
Take a break, reset, and get back to it.
Yeah, so, and again, like you said, this is something that you may have to learn. It's going to be something that you're going to have to train yourself to be able to do, because otherwise, it's not. It doesn't come easy today. Right. It doesn't come easy in today's world.
Not the way it works.
Right.
And, with messages coming in and interruptions.
You're constantly bombarded with information.
Right. That's right.
So we have to learn how to distract.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know can't appreciate that, it's sort of like, you would have to learn to be able to handle being bombarded by information. Those who are accustomed to being bombarded with information have to learn to not be bombarded with information. And so it's a learning process either way. Today, neither of them is the natural or sort of the typical state. Yeah. It's just how things are now. So, all right. Anything else?
Glad we did this one.
Finally.
Hey,
you know what?
On that.
I would say you owe me a Coke, but
no,
I don't drink Coke.
You don't drink it anymore? No, I don't either.
No. That's okay though.
It's not good for you.
You know what I drink instead?
Yes.
Coffee. I didn't have any coffee.
One would never guess.
I didn't have any coffee today.
No.
So, all right.
He didn't have it. Never mind.
Not during the podcast.
He didn't have any after the first pot.
Well, that's how it goes sometimes. So we are out for today. That's it for today. So we will be back next time for another episode. We hope that this was helpful for you. We hope that it gave you some things to think about, some strategies to use. If you have any other ideas or questions or strategies or thoughts or perspectives or whatever you would like to share with us, please write to us. There's plenty of ways to get in touch with us, whether it's iTunes, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all those different things. Get in touch with us. Let us know. Give us a rating. Get us a review. Let us know what we're doing well, what you would like to see us do instead. And we will take those things and implement them.
We should also tell our listeners that they could write to us.
That's what I said, Twitter and
I
Facebook.
mean, like on paper. You don't remember that.
It's so difficult to write on paper.
But we could, then I'd have it. I could look at it.
I know.
There'd be so much at
here's
home with
a little insight into what happens here sometimes is when there are articles and stuff that we'll want to talk about, and when I have the article, I'll put it up on the computer screen so it's sitting right here in front of us, right underneath the he likes to print them out and have them in
look
paper.
at them.
And underline things, and I need to get him some highlighters, some different color highlighters. So this one's really important. This one is medium important. Monotasking.
That's right. That's a good example of monotasking versus multitasking.
That's right.
Which other people who will remain unnamed.
Voldemort.
No, it's true. I like print.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you want to write to me, hey,
yeah.
I would love to receive mail on paper.
His address is drmarshall@packflorida.com.
That's electronic.
Oh, you got to be electronic.
That's electronic.
That's
Don't try to trick me. Okay.
So, all
Love
right.
to hear from you, however you get that message here.
You got me all distracted and stuff.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for following.
You have a good
and
day.
We love to hear from you. So until next time, I'm Dr. Bernie.
Dr. Richard.
Stay happy and healthy, and forget to be afraid.